So are we assuming the $7,900 is going to bring the loan current?
Cure.
Or some
Cure some portion of the arrearages, which may be principal and interest, and maybe a negative escrow because of the tax situation. We don't know.
So is the buyer, is Ms. Rubino aware of this?
Yeah.
Will this explain to her?
Oh, yes.
We are discussing it now.
Yeah, I explained it to both of them when her daughter called me.
I mean, I agree, I think it needs to be done because the situation's not going to change. It's just like, quite honestly, it looks confusing, $8,000 going back on a loan, on a delinquent loan. So, but I don't have a problem with it or any other questions, but, because I think we're in the same spot no matter what. Whether we're behind 80,000 or 87 doesn't really matter much.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept the subordination request approval from Hammond for 4029 Romer Avenue.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the subordination request approval for Carmen Urbina at 4029 Grover. There's no more questions or discussion on this. Roll call.
Iris?
Yes.
Dejas?
Yes.
Esposito?
Yes.
So the president?
Yes.
Albert?
Yes. Motion passes 5 yes. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, I guess you're on deck some more. Number 8, home program, conditional loan approval for Sylvia Encino at 7850 North Town.
Sylvia's here, and this is for the amount of $48,500.
I know the home very well from the outside.
Do you?
Yeah, just from the outside.
I believe, yeah, they already have a contractor on this one, so pretty much this one's ready to be closed for soon.
Yeah, so that's Kraus and Son.
Yes.
What actually are we having done? This, base demo?
Do you know what kind of thing we're going to be done?
The windows need to be replaced, doors, electrical, plumbing, some kitchen, the crawl space.
So you're kind of redoing the whole building then? You've got it out with electricity, windows, and a little bit of everything?
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Did I hear you
new home construction. I know my mic is not working, so I'm sorry, for whatever reason. I believe that new home construction is something we should be incentivizing. We need more new home construction throughout the city. And so with that, we're going to be bringing revised guidelines to you for that.
There it is.
Okay, that was me.
I don't have to start over, do I? So with that, at next meeting, we're going to be bringing revised guidelines to you where specifically someone undergoing new home construction will not have to meet the low to moderate income guidelines and can be paid from the mayor's allotment of money that he puts into this program rather than the HUD dollars that are put into the program, because there's two different portions that go into this program. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. And today, we need to table it because we just, Jennifer and I just started discussing this, and so we haven't had time to actually put the new revised guidelines into your packet, but I just wanted to have the discussion ahead of time and answer any questions you may have in regards to that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I think, of course, new construction's a feather, you know, so.
I make a motion to table item number 9, revision of homebound guidelines, until our next meeting. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. The table, line item number 9, revision to homebound guidelines. We have a roll call on that.
Myrick,
Yes.
Navejas,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Soto Presa,
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes. Motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You're welcome.
Okay. Number 10, request approval of rehab expenses of holding costs for NSP properties, 7038 Lyman Avenue and 6712 Colorado.
Good afternoon. Just a brief rundown as to why this is happening. State Board of Accounts, and through their different audits of the department, have found the need to find us, not fine us, find us for exceeding contractual amounts by more than 20%. And don't want to get found again by State Board of Accounts. So what we've done is, even though we haven't exceeded the contract with the rehabbers by 20%, we will exceed the contract or agreement that United Neighborhoods, Inc. has with the Hammond Redevelopment Commission for the rehab and sale of the home NSP properties. Right now, at the 2 properties that we sold, for example, we have not exceeded the rehab contractors by 20%, but the holding costs, the utilities, the alarm systems, the real estate taxes that we're liable for since that we were credited to at closing, those appraisals, things of that nature that are not directly related to rehab have caused us to exceed our agreement, United Neighborhood Inc.'s agreement with Redevelopment Commission by 26.44%. So what we're looking for is approval. Typically, our contracts call for a 20% contingency. And in these 2 cases, the 20% contingency wasn't enough. We exceeded that. And anything under 20%, I have up to 10% approval. Bill has up to 20% approval, and anything over 20% is required, according to State Board, requires an approval of the Hammond Redevelopment Commission.
Yeah, Commissioners, just to chime in, I mean, essentially, we don't want State Board coming in and having a finding because of the associated cost beyond the rehab. So to be better safe than sorry, it just makes sense to bring it in front of Redevelopment Commission, have a motion to approve, and then when they come in, they say, hey, you actually went over 20% based on those other factors that Mr. Radowski is speaking of. we could say yes, and that's why we came to redevelopment commission and made sure that we formally had it approved.
So this,
But does that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say, so the contingency, you want like 30% contingency?
No, I think it's, legal counsel might be able to clarify that, but I think they had mentioned it's a regulatory issue at the 20%, that anything above 20% has to be, approved.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can give us a blanket approval for 25 or 30%.
No, you can't. It's gonna be on a case-by-case basis. When they exceed the regulatory limit that Dennis has plus what Phil has, they're gonna come back on a case-by-case basis. So that's why you have the two in front of you. You know, and then quite frankly, it keeps everything kind of above board, that you know, unless it comes to you, that it's gonna stay within that 20% threshold.
Okay, I mean, I understand that, but I just meant on these two, are we setting it up to 30% or we're just, I mean, is it a blanket, what, you know, just?
No, we're already, on these two, we're already at 26 and 22.
Correct.
Yeah, so you're approving the amount on these two that are,
Just
that
the
you're there.
amount that we're over right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're approving the fact that you brought this to our attention, which is fine. And, you know, and of course, we don't want to be called at our principal's office anymore, but are we solving the problem? Or could this happen again, and is that an okay thing?
It's okay, because you're solving the problem by having this approval.
By us reviewing it?
If they just submitted it without your approval, that's the problem.
That's right.
And to clarify, Redevelopment Commission, the city, has not expended funds over the 20% yet. United Neighborhoods, Inc. has, but in order for us to process our invoices to the city for that excess, we need your approval. So we have not we haven't
broken it.
We haven't broken any regulations or exceeded any regulations.
Everybody, no more questions? I move we approve the request for approval of rehab expenses and holding costs for NSP properties at 7038 Lyman, and 6712 Colorado.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the request approval of rehab expenses and holding costs for NSP properties at 7038 Lyman and 6712 Colorado. If there's no more questions or discussions from Mr. Radowski, we have a roll call.
Myrick?
Yes.
Naveja?
Yes.
Jaskowicz?
Yes.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Helprich?
Yes. Motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you. Sorry for the
You're
confusion.
welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. Okay, number 11, determination of compliance with the Hammond Central Redevelopment Plan for an expansion of car sales for Smith Chevrolet dealership at 6355 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond Central Redevelopment area.
Commissioners, you may recall that the city performed an order to repair process on a building that was owned by Smith Chevrolet at this address, the 6355 Indianapolis Boulevard. And as part of that process, once we completed it, Smith Chevy was then, because they are in a redevelopment area, they are then in a position where they need to submit a new plan to the city of what they're going to do with the property, which is what you have in front of you, including dealing with issues such as new drainage issues now that the building is gone. And if, in this case, as they're going to be constructing a new parking lot that essentially is going to have cars on it for sale, you have to have appropriate landscaping, lighting, etc. Obviously, we're in full support of this. It's an expansion of Smith Chevrolet. We're very excited about it. I'll let Chris Moore, engineer, kind of answer any questions you may have, or I don't know if he has any comments he wants to bring up.
Sure. Good evening. We're Chris Moore with Nice Engineering, and we've overseen the design of the parking lot and the expansion of Smith Chevrolet. Chevrolet is requiring Smith to bring their dealership up to standards, you know, as Chevrolet dealers are doing across the country. And we're doing the parking lot expansion, and as the city requirements to have is a landscaping ordinance. And this is kind of a particular situation where it's not a standard parking lot. We're not gonna go put cars in a parking lot, but in order to meet the city standards, what I did was put together a parking plan that kind of shows you how a parking lot would look, but we're not going to stripe it. All we're gonna do on that one is to show you the determination of the number of parking spaces that we can fill into that area. And then based off of that, we calculate the amount of green space that is required to have in the parking lot, including the landscaping strip that goes around the property. And we have the documentation on the plan sheet that kind of shows you what the requirements are and the fact that we exceed it by nearly 60%. We're going to be putting a curb around the outer limits of the parking lot, as well as asphalt on the inside and drainage and lighting. If you have any questions.
The total project cost of $120,000, that's their money, not our money.
Correct. Correct.
And wasn't at least a portion, I know the building was knocked down, I noticed it the other day, or demolished, but wasn't at least a portion of that already auto sales?
Not this specific property. There was a building on it, and there might have been, I believe there was a lease in place from Smith Chevy with the previous building owner, and there's a possibility they were parking some cars in there.
Perhaps, okay.
But it wasn't used for, say, car sales, for example. But yeah, you're right, there were cars parked there at one time.
Been a little extra inventory, just those little trucks, kind of.
Correct, and I believe that's why Smith Chevy went out and purchased the property, so they can do this expansion. And just so you know, and I'm sure you know this already, we as a redevelopment commission are just determining compliance with this plan, that it fits with the redevelopment plan that we set forth years ago. And unfortunately, Mr. Poland couldn't be here because he's on vacation right now, but he would want me to recommend to you, as you could see at the end of his letter, is recommended that the Redevelopment Commission determine that the project is in compliance with the 2015 Hammond Central Redevelopment Area Plan, subject to the resolution of any technical issues and the site lighting.
Okay, it says there was an outstanding issue to be resolved regarding the lighting and meeting the zoning requirements. Has that been resolved?
It has not, which is why he would like you to, a motion to approve subject to the site lighting being resolved.
I'm sorry, subject to.
Yeah, if you read the last sentence of his report, he's recommending that you determine the project is in compliance with the 2015 Hammond Central Redevelopment Area Plan, subject to the resolution of any technical issues in the site lighting.
Nobody wants to say it? Mr. President,
What you were gonna ask. Go for it, Wally.
I move that we follow Mr. Poland's recommendation, and approve that the project is in compliance with the 2015 Hammond Central Redevelopment Area Plan, subject to the resolution of any technical issues and site lighting.
I second
Second.
that. Oh, Mr. Meyer.
Barb?
Nope, you
Okay.
second.
Oh, no, okay, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the redevelopment commission to determine that this project is in compliance with the 2015 Hammond Central Redevelopment Area Plan, subject to the resolution of any technical issues and the site lighting. Is there any more questions or discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Myrick,
Yes.
Navejas,
Yes.
Expositi,
Yes.
Soto Presley,
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, number 12, interlocal governmental agreement between the City of Hammond, Indiana City of Hammond Board of Public Works, and the Safety, and the City of Hammond by and through its redevelopment commission for 5750 Northcott Avenue.
Commissioners, this agreement obviously would be transferring the property at 5750 Northcott from city-owned property to redevelopment-owned property. The purpose of the agreement is this particular property, we were reached out to by a City of Hammond resident that owns property. This site, 5750 Northcott, has a very weird property line, and it cuts into what you would consider to be the other owner's property line. In other words, if you drove by, it would look like it's his front lawn, when in actuality, right down the middle, half of it is his front lawn and half is owned by the city. And it's been this way for many years. Well, the resident called the city and said, you know, he would like to get this resolved because he's been cutting the grass on city property for years. So the reason for the transfer is it's easier for the redevelopment commission to disperse of a property than it necessarily is for the city to do it. We have a process in which we do this, in which we order appraisals, we then put it out for RFP, and then typically, and then we know in this case, we'll for sure have one bidder on the property that will be interested. And essentially what we're doing is just correcting an error. If you looked at it, you'd say it is his property if you just drove by, but unfortunately, years ago, for whatever reason, the parcels were cut or subdivided the way they are. So at this time, though, all we're asking is for us to approve the transfer of the property from City Board of Works to the Redevelopment Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. There's no more questions or discussion. Roll call in.
Myrick,
Yes.
Beha,
Yes.
Tesfaziki,
Yes.
Solo Pressley,
Yes.
Helpers,
Yes. Motion passes, 5 yes. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, you're on deck again. Number 13, reports. Bill Talon.
I don't have anything to report necessarily. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I noticed as I was coming in that Starbucks is coming up right there on the corner of Indy and whatever that is.
Yeah, it's moving pretty quick. It's definitely gone vertical. I think they're, you know, out of all the construction projects, you can tell they're taking an aggressive approach because they're moving very quickly at that site, which is great. So obviously we're excited to get our first Starbucks. I know that we're looking at other parts of the city for a second Starbucks already, which is fun. We'll see if it, you know, if and when that happens. But yeah, it's going very quickly at that site. And I think it's Interstate Drive is what you were.
Interstate Drive.
Yeah.
And the Hampton Inn, do you know, have an opening?
The grand opening will be in June. I don't have the exact date yet, but I did speak to the owner, and it's really, even though there's a few things on the outside, because if you drive by, you can see there's a little bit of work to do. It's mainly just the internal stuff that they're doing right now, and they're getting closer. But he said it will open in June. And just as a side note, he's also the same developer who's going to be constructing the Holiday Inn Express that's going in the parcel next door to it, that we sold the property to him a while back. And he's already submitted his application, his permit application for that site. So you could see, as long as he gets his permit approved shortly, you could see the beginning of the construction of the Holiday Inn Express probably within the next 30 days or so.
Good news.
It has come to,
Rick on the office building. I've been driving by. That's being constructed right now.
Also doing very well, and the NIPSCO is about to be hooked up, which is very helpful. They don't have to work everything from generators and things of that nature. So the Class A office building is moving right along. I received an email saying that they're approximately 30 to 35% leased, but they're in negotiations with several other groups that will take up another substantial portion of the building. So everything's going very well over there.
it's come to my attention that some of our staff members here have recommended for the summer that perhaps we show good community service and have our meetings perhaps at Byways and perhaps Starbucks and maybe at least one of the meetings per month we could
There
take
you
the show
go.
on the road, you know, so Jake's got equipment that we can, you know, microphones he is willing to haul around, so, you know, I think we should research the topic.
If you can talk to Mayor McDermott about that and get that passed, I'd be happy to support your cause.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Thank you. Okay, moving along, number 14, bills, register of claims.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pay the register of claims for April 28th through May 11th, 2016. Register of claims R533337 to R53429. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the register of claims, April 28, 2016 through May 11, 2016. Claims R53337 through R53429. Any questions or discussion on these claims? Okay, roll call then.
Myrick,
Yes.
Navejas,
Yes.
Testor
Yes.
Soto Presa,
Yes.
Hopper.
Yes. Motion passes. Yes. Okay, number 15, new and unfinished business.
There is none.
I'd just like to add one thing. I gave Dennis Radowski a little lead today, but I won't mention the name. Possibility of constructing a new home over here in the old Millennium off of Michigan. So there hasn't been any activity there in a while, so hopefully, something can lead our way to that.
I packed it away already, but I saw the books and brushes flyer or whatever. In our previous packet, we had one for, I think, the 24th at the Marina, and I think I'm going to the one at the Marina. But are we involved in this, in the books and brushes efforts, or, I mean, which is, I think is awesome. I just wondered if we're directly involved as a,
Isabel and I and Africa are on the board for Hammond, which is part of that.
okay, good.
There is a concert this Thursday, May 19th, 6:30 p.m.
I could be wrong too, Commissioner, but I believe some of the students there take advantage of our programs, some of our voucher programs to help some of the students with fees that it costs for those types of activities. So in that way, we're involved as well.
No, I'm happy to support it. I'm not, just want to know if it was, a direct, direct give.
Yeah, ironically enough, I had a meeting with Michelle Golden today, and things are going very well over there. She was very excited about where they're at, how they just started an adult choir and the success of that, and the things that they're getting done with families. I'm sure Karen knows a lot about that being on the board, but everything's going very well. She's very excited.
Thank you. Rick?
Number 16, public comment. If you'd like to come forward, 3 minutes, you can come up and speak. Okay, public comment closed. Before we adjourn, I'd just like to acknowledge our councilwoman at large, Jenna Gomez. We appreciate you coming out to tonight's meeting. Okay, number 17.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you all signify by saying aye?
Aye.